This version represents a culmination of many years of working and building tools to debug and design better database solutions. And as they say, and this is no exception, this version is the best version I've ever built. And I really sincerely believe in that. I've worked really hard to rebuild this from the ground up, and you'll see there's a lot of detail in here that is available to you. So when you first open it, a number of people have always commented on where do I start. Basically, you have a list of solutions on the left, and you can put in a solution name, and for every solution you can track multiple. So you can enter a solution name, and as you'll see here, I have a solution called example. It's got 3 DDRs. I have other solutions here. Some have 3, some have 1. And so you select it, and then you see the different analyses, and they're chronological. So the first one will go in, and then you'll just keep adding on top of the other ones that come in. So once you've set up a solution, then the next step is you'll want to generate your DDR for your solution. So let's say I have one of these starter files, and I'll put it into my demo folder, and I want to generate a DDR for this. So basically, you need FileMaker Advanced, because FileMaker Advanced has the database design report capabilities. You bring up from the Tools menu, choose Database Design Report. You'll get this dialog, and what you'll want is the XML output, and you do not need to open the file once it's done. All you need to do is save that output. Don't uncheck any of these options, because basically if you do and you've got, let's say, value lists that are referenced, they'll be broken. So make sure you just leave everything checked as is. Go ahead and create it, and then save it out. And then what you'll have is in that folder, you'll see that you'll have a summary file and a data for every database you have. You'll have a DDR XML output for it, and then what Inspector does is when you want to import an analysis that you've just generated, you go to the far right over here. You can type in a comment. And then go ahead and click import. This checkbox here is generating some special data so that it can be used in comparison information. So I can go ahead and click import. I'll point it to the summary file, and then Inspector takes over from that point on. Now, the one thing I'll mention while we're waiting for this to complete is that the plugin is already 64-bit, even before FileMaker 14 shipped last week. So we've been 64-bit for some time, and the benefit to you is that it really works hard and processes a lot of the XML in multiple threads. So you'll really get an advantage of performance when you run it. So it's completed, and this is a small solution in comparison to like really bigger production solutions. But I just wanted to show you that process so you fully understand where to go to create a solution and go and import an analysis. Now, as you see, I'm just importing different analysis here. I've been testing, but the point is that if all these analyses belong to the same version, and I'll show you a little bit later, you can do comparisons and you can do all kinds of things. So once I have an analysis imported, and I'm going to go back to this one because it's got a lot of different things in there to talk about. Then you're ready to dive in, basically, and you can dive in pretty much from the dashboard to any area you see here. So I can go to my layouts, or I can go to my base tables or fields. Let's take a look at scripts. So I'll just click on scripts. There's 1,687 scripts in this solution. And what you'll notice is that, if you've used the versions before, that were really cleaned up a lot of the information that you see on the screen. If you look at the prior version, there used to be sub-menus up here, and there was just all this sub-navigation. Now, all the navigation is done by these buttons up here, and these buttons are popovers. So I can click on the popover, and I can see that I can navigate to, let's say, or I can navigate to my steps, and I'll talk about these different areas in just a moment. But you can see that I can go to layouts, and similarly, I have all these things grouped under these popovers. So that's how navigation kind of works in this new version. It's a lot cleaner, it's a lot simpler, and then the other important point to mention is that the things that we display, the top, front, and center is where you are, and then again on the top left, what solution, what analysis number, and then on the far right, what record number you're looking at out of the entire data set. So I'm looking at script 10 out of 1,687 scripts. Now, if I perform a find, let's say I want to find this particular script that has this word called data in it. I can just pop into find mode, type data, hit enter, and now I find all the scripts that have the word data in them. Now you'll notice that this upper right changed from 5 out of 51 out of a total of 1,687. So you still have the total count of how many scripts in your analysis, but you have the count of how many scripts you're in your found set currently. So where you are, how many you have, and then the other important points to mention, and this is the most often asked question about Inspector or any tool like this, is where is this item referenced? So you'll have the item displayed over here, what database, the script name, in this case, number of steps in it, and then on the far right, you'll have the number of references. Now, the number of references is important, especially because you want to know if something is being used. So, for example, I have this script here, external new broadcast. If I click on the count of references here, I get to view my references. So right in this view, in this popover, you get a lot of detail in terms of this script is referenced by other scripts. So, and I can navigate there, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But the point is that you get to see that number, and that's one of the most important numbers that you'll want to track on for your solution. Now, there's two ways you can navigate to it. The old way, which was isolated, and that if I were to click on the script, it takes me to the reference for that script I was just on. And this is in this new script, so that's where it's referenced. If I go back for a moment, go back to here, and go in context, this time when I drill into that script, I'll see it in context, which is really nice because you can see exactly where in the script it's referenced. So there's some nice finesse with that. Let's go back one second. Let's talk about some of the other things that are here. So you'll notice that your scripts are grouped by the database that they're in. So if you have different databases in your analysis, you'll see them here. If you were, let's go back to the entire list of scripts. So here's the entire list of, I'm in a file, but you'll notice that this file has a lot of scripts, and if I navigate further down and I select this one, I still see the name of the file up here whenever I select it. So that's helpful, but you also have a tooltip over here on the far left telling you what the database is for that script. The reason we do it that way is to kind of give you some visual would reduce the visual noise that we don't have to repeat something over and over, so we sub-summarize those. Now, from left to right, there's a lot of information, in some areas a lot more information than others, but scripts is quite a bit. So let's look at, we have, let's say, this script here, and then we'll have some visualization icons over here that I'll explain when we come back to it in just a little bit. But we have compatibility information. Now, oftentimes you'll think, well, I really need to know if a script is compatible based on the steps that are inside it, and that's correct. But what we do is we roll up the compatibility information right to the script. So you can see that if I were to click on the steps here, I could drill into the steps for that script. And over here, you'll notice that this step is server incompatible, server incompatibility, and it's got custom web publishing incompatibility. So there's other steps in here that are also incompatible, and then it'll tell you. But the point is that at the script level, when you're looking at the actual script, you'll see those incompatible icons show up rolled up to the script, and we do a lot of that in a lot of places. So when you'll see more information about compatibility later on in some of the visualizations, we also do it there. And then, so these are the compatibility icons. Again, there's tooltips here. Otherwise, to write all these words out would be quite long. So this is run with full access. So this script here runs with full access. These other scripts here are included in the menu, and then we have the number of steps in a script. And as you just saw, simply clicking on here will take me to that script and all the steps in it. So I can quickly see what the steps are in that script. Likewise, I can go into a script, and let me find a better example here. Maybe this one. Oh, I don't have a good example here. Let me find one. This one here. Okay, so if a script has scripts that are performing other scripts, instead of navigating by the references, you can also click on the arrow here, and it will navigate you to that script. So in this case, this is a self-referencing script, looks like, but let's see if we can find a better example. But that's the idea. And I'm navigating back. I can go to this other script here. This is win create. So there we go. There's that script. So you can navigate back and forward like that. So really, really handy. Let's go back to my list of scripts. You will continue on here. These are the groups that the scripts are in. And then something new in Inspector 5, we have % of comments in the scripts and % white space. So you'll notice that a lot of these, like these ones, have absolutely no comments. They have a little bit of white space. So if you look over here, this one here, 62 script steps, it's got a balance of about just under 15% comments and white space. So if you look at it, we have some comments up here, we have some white space, and in FileMaker 14, you actually have real white space. You don't even have the hash sign. So you'll have that working in the same way as it works now. And then just to complete or round out things here, we have dependencies and references, and pretty much everywhere where something can be referenced, you'll have a column for references. If you have, let's see now, if you have some dependencies, for example, if a script has some dependencies, they'll show up here as well. But normally the references is the most important thing, and some things have references and some things do not. But if it does, it'll be listed on the far right with a popover, and you can navigate around that way. The other thing that you'll notice here is we have this thing that we've been doing for some time now, and it's called security overlay. But the way to take advantage of this in a solution is to use the same privilege set names across your files. Unfortunately, we cannot do it by ID because you may create a privilege set and delete one, and then the IDs would get out of sync. So if you name your privileges in the same name for the same levels of access across your files, then what ends up happening is you'll end up seeing information about that script with that privilege. So you can quickly at a glance select a privilege and see whether a script, a value list, a layout, a field, or a table, what the privileges are for it. Very, very handy when you're troubleshooting some issues with regards to security. So that gives you kind of a quick overview here about how things are laid out, how you can navigate back and forth, how you can find references. And again, there's a lot of consistency throughout the product. If I go to layouts, I have layout references. This layout is referenced 5 times, and I see the places where it's referenced. I could click here. It'll take me to that script where that layout is referenced. The thing about layouts as well, there's a lot of information in addition, similarly to what we had with scripts. So if you have any questions about some of these things up here, always there's a tooltip available. And in some cases, because we're limited for the amount of space, we've given you a conditional radio button here. So I want to see security instead of the layout group. So I can look at security and then again select the security level. And in this case, that's the privilege set that belongs to that file. So that's why we were not seeing some information in there. So let's see here. Layouts. There's in FileMaker 12 and 13, and now even in 14, we have CSS. And if you style your objects, you save some overhead in transferring data from the server to the client. And Inspector tells you over here what's the percentage of objects on this layout local styles. So for example, I have this attachments layout. It has 12 objects, and those objects pretty much all of them have local styles on them. If you click on the local style, you'll get the styling information. But the point is that you want to drop that number down to 0 so that everything gets a style. And so that'll save you in performance. It'll improve performance of the communication between server and client. Any questions so far in terms of navigation? Again, you can do any kind of search you want here. Any questions at this point? I don't see any questions, so we'll just continue moving forward. Okay, let's go back to the dashboard, and let's take a look at problems. So problems, Inspector 5, we've brought back the auto detection capabilities that we used to have. So now, because in version 4, what we had was you had to run a detection report to detect the problems that existed in your solution. With Inspector 5, we automatically detect the most critical problems, and so you'll see right away that you'll get these warning symbols. Now, you can click on scripts like we just did, and you can scrub through here, and you'll see, oh, there I saw some warning symbols. Let me go click in that script and look at that. I have a script, that I'm calling that's gone. Again, over here and over here. But there's another way to do that, and simply from the dashboard, you can just click on the warning symbol, and it'll isolate all the scripts that have problems with them. And then subsequently, you can then drill into the steps and go and explore those problems. So with Inspector, you can quickly dive in just specifically to the problems by clicking on the warning triangles. So like, for example, in fields, I have a list of fields that have problems as well. Similarly, with any of these other objects. There is, however, another report you can generate. You can generate a problem report by clicking at the analysis level, and you have the ability to print it, or in a window. So if you choose window and then you click it, you get a nice window sub-summarized by database and then by area, telling you where the problems are. And so you can scrub through here, and again, just clicking on any of these will take you there. But you can leave this window open, and that will, kind of, when I click here, I get taken exactly to the step, but I have the window always open to kind of go through the problems in the context of Inspector, or to actually open them up and look at your solution and find the problems there. Okay, something else. Yeah, we'll cover that later. Okay, let's see. Any questions about problem detection? Nope. Okay. Tell me what layout. Okay, so I do have one question. Can you tell me what layout a script is used on? Okay, that's so let's see. I go particular layout here. Let's say I want to find out where this script. It has 4 references. I can click here on the right again. These are my references, and then here's the places where that layout is being referenced by go to related record or go to layout. In this case, go to layout. So this layout called content sections is referenced in this step here of this script. So I'm going to that layout. Now, there are some situations where you might want to know if, for example, you want to have more confidence if I can delete a layout. But again, you can also go via indirection for a layout name by data or by some variable. And to get a better level of confidence with that, I'll show you a different way that you can go about looking at that. So let me go back to the dashboard. And in Inspector, what we do is we also normalize a lot of other information. That's what this bottom right corner is. So if I look at layout destinations, I have 2 numbers here. And you'll notice that I have 2 numbers in functions and in these other areas. What the 2 numbers mean is that so I'm using 5 different types of layout destinations, and out of those 5 different types, I'm using 1,203 references. So if I click here, I see that I have different ways to reference a layout. I can say go to original layout. I use that kind of feature 134 times, but I use the go by selected layout 903 times. Now, again, going back to the point of layout and direction, if you were concerned that you wanted to, let's say I want to delete a layout, but if you check here, you can see that, oh, there's a fair bit of use of, go to layout by name by calculation. So you'd have to get familiar with the solution to better understand where those layouts are being referenced and which ones they are, because there is some indirection here. But let's say those numbers were 0 and this number was 0, then you'd have a pretty confident level of pretty high confidence that you could go ahead and delete that layout. I have another question that's come in, and that is there a facility to mark that a problem has been fixed? In the next, I believe in the next version, there should be, we're bringing back detection, and we'll be able to give you that capability again. At this time, that's not possible because the item is marked on the actual. It's not built into this version. So we have it on our list of things to do. So okay, so I have one more question. Let's see. Yes, so I have a question. I was to look for a way to find what layout the script was being used on. So if the script is not used on any layouts, then I could delete the script. So yes, if you go to scripts, just like we were looking at layouts, again, this column is going to be your best friend. It's called the references column. There's a tooltip here. It says references, objects that refer to this item. So if I click on this script, it tells me all the places where that script is referenced. Now, this script is referenced not only by other scripts, but it's referenced by a layout. So script referenced by perform script attached to a button on this layout. So if you had a script that was either attached to a button on a layout, or was used in a script trigger, or was in a custom menu item, all those references show up over here, and you can see them. So if you do have scripts that have a 0 count of references, then you don't have any references of that script. So it's very likely that that script is not being used anywhere. However, does not track solutions that have custom web publishing that reference scripts. If you have a script, for example, that's included in a menu, we'll include that in the future as a reference. But you can see here that this script is actually in the menu. So we'll turn it on as a reference. That's something that will change. But currently, you can rely on that number of references to tell you where things are being used. So if I go to that object, that is showing me that button on that layout actually has a reference. Now, while I'm here, we're looking at layout objects that belong to this layout called data layouts. And if you see, I have these up and down arrows. What these up and down arrows do is tell you that the object is contained within another object. So with FileMaker, when you have a button, you have a group button, sometimes the button is made up of different components. And so, or let's say you have a field or an object in a tab panel, that object is contained within that tab panel. And to help you find things, what we've done is we have a way to kind of drill up to its parent. So by clicking on this object, it takes you to the parent. And so if you had a very deeply nested set of objects, you can quickly find where the parent is, and then know exactly where the location of the item is. So this would be your top and left location here. So really, really helpful information when you're trying to find the objects that are on your layout. Unfortunately, it can get, with a very detailed layout with tab panels and popovers, things can get hidden and they're not easy to find. Another interesting point about the DDR, if you've ever trolled the DDR, is that those locations, when it comes to reporting the location, it's reported relative to its parent. So if you were to try and go to layout mode, if I go back to this file and I pop into layout mode, and let's say, you know, I had pop over button here. So, and I had, you know, some object. This object was in here. Now, that location would be outputted in the DDR as relative to the panel. So if I were to attach this to the upper, you know, upper left part of the panel, I would see that the object location would tell me that it's 0, 0. But however, if you look at the actual inspector, let's see if I can hide this here. So you look at the inspector, the actual object location is 623 from the left and 33 from the top. So that's the absolute coordinates. And what inspector gives you is absolute coordinates, so you can quickly find where exactly that object is. Okay, so let's close this. Any questions about that? Okay, so we've covered navigation. We've talked about problems a little bit. We're going to look at comparisons real quick, but before we do that, I'm going to talk about visualizations. So we have 4 different kinds of visualizations with Inspector, and there's 2 of them that you can get to right from the dashboard. And so the first one is the script universe, and there's different settings that you can set it to. So the output can be either you want to save it as a file, you want to send it in an email, or you want to view it in a window within your analysis. So if I choose window and I go in and click the button to generate the script universe, I'll see you know, the objects that are represented here are everything that interacts with scripts. So if you've never seen this before, it's kind of a very interesting visualization of your scripts. And you can interact with this. You can zoom in, take a closer look. There's directionality. So for example, this script over here, this one that you're hovering on, gives you like a tooltip, tells you what number of steps are there and what database it's in. If you look closely, you'll see that it's got a darker tip on one end. That means that this object, which is a button on that layout, is calling this script as a script, possibly a script, like a button that calls a script. You can also have references for fields that call scripts as script triggers, and there's a lot of filtering up here that you can filter some of the items out. Now, the size of the circle also denotes the number of steps in it. This has only 1 step in it. I don't know why you'd bother writing a script with 1 step, but nonetheless. This one has 19 steps in it, and this larger one has 165 steps. Now, this visualization is something that you can interact with as well. So if I see circles with red inner cores, I can, if I have opened up Inspector within FileMaker, meaning that I installed the plugins and I put it in FileMaker. Well, that was interesting. There was a fire alarm. Okay. It didn't go on, so I guess I'm just staying here. Okay, if I click on this, it takes me to the script, and I can drill into the script, and lo and behold, I can see the problems right there by drilling in with the visualization. So visualization can be quite informative, and it can display some interesting patterns. This is a very small solution, but you'll notice some interesting patterns that repeat. I have a button, I call a script. I have a button, I call a script. So reusability of code, if you see a lot of these patterns, can indicate, like, maybe not thinking about how to reuse the code. So anyway, every solution paints a different picture. So it's very interesting what you can glean from looking at these visualizations. Let's look at another example. We have a scatter plot that we generate in Inspector, and that scatter plot gives you insight in terms of the field count, the percent indexed in a table, and then the size of the circle indicates the number of records in the table. So we have different files, and different files are represented with different colors. So we can see that we have this table has one record in it. It has 152 fields, and it's 91% indexed. So if you see a lot of your circles clustered on the far right, and your circles are large, and they're up here with a large field count, there could be some design issues and performance issues with the solution. So this is a quick way visually to kind of get a sense as to how things are playing out with the number of indexes and so on and so forth. There's a couple of other visualizations that I'll show you, and I'll open up some of them that I've exported already. So again, this is a script universe for something a lot larger. So you'll see the entire solution in a script, in the script universe here, and every color is all the objects from a particular file and how to interact with one another. And again, you can you can zoom in or zoom out here and get the bigger picture. But when you look at large systems like this, they can certainly seem like the Death Star or something. Again, you can zoom in to an incredible level of detail on these things. So it's all SVG, so it doesn't matter how close you scale. It's all just crisp and sharp. So it's very cool. So that's one. Another one that we have, again, this would be, there's two other types of visualizations that we generate, and we generate what is called a calculation tree. And the calculation tree is basically, if you look at a calculation and let's say it's unstored, and you want to understand how much work is this calculation needing to perform. So this calculation is depending on some of these other fields, and if this calculation was coming from related fields, these would be unstored. And you can see here it's calling some of these custom functions. Some of these custom functions are actually recursive. So to get a result to this calculation, we'd have to go all the way out to here, evaluate each of these functions, and some of them are recursive, return a result to there, then all these three return the result to here, and so on and so forth. So you can interact with this visualization and get to learn what's going on with the solution. Now, you can end up discovering that you have some really large calculations that are taking some long time to get evaluated, and realize by visualizing them to say, wow, I never knew that calculation was doing so much work. And so I'm just zooming out here so you get the big picture on this one calculation. This is one calculation, and if it's unstored and it's on a layout, you can imagine some of the performance overhead on this. Mind you, it could be a case statement and you're only evaluating one branch of this, but nonetheless, you get to see a little bit of what's going on under the hood with these calculations. Equally, we have a script tree that we can generate, and this example that I have here is an example of a logins. I think this is a quote script. And this is pretty much all the branching logic in the script, meaning all the places where it could call out a different script, either perform script on server or perform script or perform a script timer, install a script timer. Now, the interesting thing to point out here is that we have compatibility. So let's say I wanted to find every place where this script would touch any steps that would be server incompatible. I can turn on server compatibility, and what you'll notice if we look over here in this area, I have scripts. Because the script knows that it has steps in it that are server incompatible, it lights up with a little round orange border. Now, you'll notice that it feeds into this script. So this script also has some steps in it that are server incompatible, but you'll notice that all these scripts here, these feed into this script, but you'll notice that this script has not got a round orange border. But if I collapse it, watch what will happen. It does now. So meaning that if you've collapsed your views, you can see the actual compatibility information rolled up to the higher levels. So this is very, very handy if you're trying to understand, some of the logic that goes on when you can only perform scripts on server at the first call and not any other subsequent calls. Everything else should just be plain old perform script. So, and there's different techniques to kind of avoid you getting into those situations, but this is what we call the script tree, and it's very, very handy to kind of see this in its broader perspective. So that's the visualizations that we have. Now, I'll take a moment here just to see if any of you have questions about those or anything else that we've covered so far before I move on. And the next thing that we'll cover is, let's see here. I'll cover comparisons. But I just realized I should mention one other thing here that's really handy, in that one of our developers found recently a change in FileMaker 14. So he had some scripts that were exporting Excel documents where he had not specified a FileMaker, like an extension. So, like, let's say you say export records and I want to export them as Excel, but you didn't specify the extension for Excel. In 14, that actually breaks, so you need to specify the extension. Inspector can help you find those instances. Again, this area down here on the bottom right. So export types, there's 3 of them. I referenced them 6 times in all. And you'll see here, this is the, I know the abbreviation is not like XLSX, but this is the abbreviation that comes out from the DDR for when you reference an Excel workbook. And there's 2 references of it. So it would tell me that I'm using it in these 2 scripts, and I could just go there and fix it, and I'm done. So very, very handy to know that there's that kind of capability to slice and dice the information in different ways. Question came in about some of the icons. You can go to the Preferences tab. All the icons are here, and you see what each of them means. While you're here, you can also see that you can choose a language. You can set some comparison options, create different accounts for users to log in, and you have the option to choose absolute or relative locations for your objects. Okay, so let's go take a look at some comparisons real quick and how that works. And let's go open up a later version. And I just went ahead and, you know, created a starter solution. And I basically went in and made a mess. I started with the original solution, and then I took a copy of that. I took a copy of it, and I generated a first DDR. Then I went in and I deleted fields. I deleted some. What else did I delete? Bill, let's have Inspector tell us. So let's go to the comparison tab. And if I select the current analysis and the prior analysis, there's three ways of looking at this information. The first is to simply go back to the dashboard. When you go to the dashboard, it'll tell you right away if I've had additions or deletions. And so at a very rough level, it tells me like, hey, I deleted 21 fields. 11 of them were text fields. 9 of them were number fields. I deleted a lot of layout objects and moved things around, and I deleted a bunch of calculations. So I guess some of the calculations that may have been in some of these auto-enter calcs for these fields, or calculations that were attached to some of these objects. But basically, I created a mess. And you can see that I had 6 problems originally. My problem count went up to 231. So definitely, you know, something to keep an eye on as you build things out. And you want these numbers to go down and not up. So one thing that we can do real quick, again, is I can drill into the problems. But like in terms of the comparison information, what we did is with Inspector 5 is I think we did a really good job in that we show, let's see, so something that I didn't do right here. Hold on. Let me see. Did I do that right? It's supposed to actually just show me, I think this should show me just a modification, and there's something wrong that I did, and I did this demo last time as well too, and I got stuck on that. Now I'm not sure. So it should show me just a delta. I'll come back to it in just a second. I'll try to remember what I did last time. But the basic idea is that you see the delta and you can see what was changed. If I go to the comparison tab, I have these different areas that I can run a comparison on. And so, like, let's say I just wanted to look at script changes, and I'll run it, and now it'll run through all the scripts. It'll compare before and after, and then will give me a report as to what was changed. So these are the scripts that were modified, and the interesting thing is they got inadvertently modified because of changes I made to some code. So for example, if I look here, I had this script and it had this code before. Now the field is missing, and field is missing here and here. Similarly, over here, similar problem. But you get a nice representation of a side-to-side view of this information. So it's nicely presented that way. Okay. Any questions about any area that we've covered so far? And feel free to, you know, at this point, like we have about 5 or 7 minutes left. Feel free to unmute yourselves if you want to have a discussion about anything. And I'm going to try and open up the other version and see if I can show you my example. Let's see, this one, comparison. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think maybe I introduced a bug with this. This should show just deltas. I'll try and then dig into that and see what might have happened there. Okay. Yeah, there's something wrong with it. So I'll dig into it. Any questions? We have, just to mention, 14 was announced last week. This will be, this is compatible with FileMaker 14. You can run FileMaker 14 DDRs through this. And there is a version that is forthcoming that will have the button bar, the placeholder calculation, all these enhancements. Plus, we've you know, maybe I can actually show you rather than just mention it. So let me go ahead and open 14. Okay, open, browse, 6. So version 14, basically almost identical. We have the button bar. In this case, this solution doesn't use the button bar, so we don't have any button bar things. And then we have placeholder calculations. One of the main differences, let's see if I can find a good example for you. Let's see this one. No. Yeah, okay. So something that we've changed, and I think for the better, is that the database view now is just breaking everything out so you can see this database has 7,493 references to it. I have the number of fields, layouts. The problem with the thing before is you had these radio buttons along the top here, and that was a little cumbersome to get a bird's eye view of a particular database. So you have the dashboard view that we have here, plus we have a database view that is much more detailed. Okay, I do have some questions and comments here. So thank you for the compliments, Philip. Tim, I do understand that you know, we want to migrate data from version to version, and it is something that I'm seriously considering. However, there's still a lot of really cool features that we want to get in place here, so those are kind of prioritized before that migration, unfortunately. The other thing I wanted to point out too is we have this new thing that we're focusing our attention on in terms of scripts. Let me see if I can find a better example. So this one here is 865 scripts. If I go to scripts, this is being worked on, so it's a work in progress, but you get these little indicators here giving you information about 400, in this case, this dark blue and light blue tells you that I have here a subset, and I don't know why the tooltip isn't working right now. There it is. 446, 51% of your scripts are referenced, 48% of them are not, and out of the ones that do have references, over here you'll get another tooltip. 6.5% of the scripts that are references have problems, and then 6.7% of the scripts that are unreferenced have problems. So we have these visual indicators to indicate roll-ups of references. So if you see a lot of light blue, basically at a quick glance you can tell right away that you have you know, a lot of scripts that are unreferenced. And so those little donut circle visualizations are going to be scattered throughout the product. Yeah, what else is different? There's a lot of other things that we're doing differently under the hood, and outward looking. We're in the future we're enhancing some of the performance in different areas. So is the plugin for the server or for the client? So the inspector comes as a runtime, and you basically launch the run. If you want to install the plugin in your FileMaker environment, you may do so. And so one one obvious approach might be if you have FileMaker Pro and Advanced, you can install the plugin in FileMaker Pro, and then use the inspector in Pro. And the benefit of doing that is you get the interactive data visualization component features, because you do not get that interactivity when you have the runtime. It is not a plugin for the server because all the work is being done by the client, and we are looking at doing things on the server in the future, but not at this time. The FileMaker 14 version is already 64-bit compatible. We just have to wrap up work. The goal is to release it at DEF CON in a month and a half from now. So that's where we're at right now. And there's a number of other enhancements that we have. But I invite you to shoot me off any emails, any questions that you have, any suggestions for improvements. Always very happy to hear from you all, and very much appreciate the opportunity for me to share this work I have been doing on this tool. I did not mention calculations, but let's just really quickly, I just want to mention that calculations are all normalized. So all the calculations in your entire solution will be in one area. You can filter them by this filter up here and say, I want to look at only field calculations. And you can search on this data. However, just like anything else in Inspector, we've normalized a lot of the data. So if you wanted to, let's say, I want to see everywhere I use the choose function, don't go and do a search in the calculation text because it will get indexed. It will take some time. Go to the functions. You'll see choose in here somewhere, or you can do a search for it. And so, for example, let's say I wanted to find every instance of this one here, get container attribute. Again, these are references. I have a tearaway window. I can pull this tearaway window off, and I could go in and drill into any one of those functions and see where that is being referenced. Quickly, the same thing about script steps. Don't go into all your steps and try and do a search for show custom dialog. Rather, go to the steps and then go to look at show custom dialog and say, I've got 15 references of it. Show me all the places I'm using show custom dialog, and obviously I can drill in, and there it is. So there's a lot to Inspector once you understand how to kind of get around with it. So again, really, really appreciate your time, and I'm available to stay on the call if you want to have a discussion or anything else you want to talk about.